Hey everyone, and welcome back to card number 4 in my Lily and Moss paper pad series. So this piece is going to be eventually cut smaller, but at the moment it's 14.4 centimeters by 10, and we're going to use the Misty Corner just to bring it away from the side because I wanted this rose, as you can see, to hang off the edge. And we're going to keep everything in the Misty, and you'll see why in a little bit. So we're going to stamp this in VersaFine Onyx Black ink, which is probably my favourite. Honestly, it's probably my favourite ink. Here in Australia, we don't get an awful lot of some of the other bits and pieces, but most of the people I know use the black onyx ink or Memento and things like that. So everything is going to stay where it is. We're going to clean it up because you'll see I have a terrible time in trying to... Wait for it. Nope, not yet. I have a terrible time with getting my fingers in it at the moment. So I'm going to go through the scraps and we're going to try and use some of these bits and pieces. So what I had an image in my mind didn't quite work, which is fine. It's not a bad card and you can see it over my blog. It's just not quite what I had in my mind. Most of these pieces are cut anywhere between 1 centimeter to 1.5 centimeter. And we're going to trim a little bit off this, and that tile piece gets trimmed down a little bit as well. And I'm just trying to use up the scraps. That's all I'm doing. Trying to use up the scraps, and we're going to play with this a little bit. And what I'm going to do is just place them over the image and fiddle with it a little bit until I'm happy. Don't get used to that green piece because he's not going to stick around for very long at all. But cards evolve, especially for me. I don't know about you. Let me know if you in the comment section below. Cards evolve. They start out in one direction and then they sometimes they work out and sometimes they go in a completely different direction. So I'm going to play with my placing of these strips. I'm going to just put a little bit of glue down, and I'm going to trim all those off once I've got it all once I've got it all glued down. And what we're going to do is we're going to come back over and I'm going to stamp over the top of it again. I saw this card on Pinterest, or might have been YouTube, or it could have been in a magazine. I don't know. So I originally tried it in the ink, as I said. Decided I didn't like it. Decided it didn't really use much of the paper pad because that's really the aim, isn't it? And as I said, it's not a bad card. So I'm going to trim off all these bits and pieces. And then, of course, that's when I'm going to decide that it is the green piece needs to go. So I'll tidy all those bits and pieces off. And if you're using a whole panel, you can use those in a different area to fill up the bottom right-hand corner or that sort of thing. I mean, there's not enough bigger strips, but you can use them in different places if you were doing the whole panel. We're not going to do that, of course, today. So now we're going to bring back the Misty back in and re-stamp it because everything's still in the place. Corners are still in, the stamp is still in, and we're ready to go. But what you're going to find is that the green, the rose sort of gets lost in the green. And I quickly decide to pull it all up and add a different colour or different piece of paper anyway. And as per usual, I've gotten ink on it. I just don't know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. I just don't know what I'm doing in the fact that I keep getting black ink all over everything. We're going to dry it off slightly because I don't want to smudge it when I rip all this up. I'm going to pull that up. And 95% of it's going to come up. So I'm not fussed about that other little bit because it's all going to be hidden. So we're just finding a piece that might sort of match it quite nicely or fill in. I think that will do quite nicely. So I've cut that down to sort of a centimetre. Don't stress about the sizing of these strips. They're roughly a centimetre, maybe centimetre and a half, some of them, but don't stress because it really doesn't matter. So this is another card for, as I said, in the Lily and Moss paper pad series for Little Bits in Keysborough. So give Leslie a call. The phone number will be down below, or email her for any information. Or last I heard there was a couple of the pads still available. But this will just now, at this point, it's just going to give you a little bit of an idea on what you can do with some of the paper pads. And there, I've got a smudge on the... See, I don't know what I'm doing. How am I getting this ink on my fingers all the time? I can clean up a stamp with a wet baby wipe and still have gunk on my fingers. I really don't know what I'm going to do, what I've been doing. So we're going to use this sentiment in the set called Live. No, it's not. It's not called Live Life in Full Bloom. That was the other one. We're going to use the other. And I don't have the same. It talks about kindness. I know that's so unprofessional, isn't it? But I'm going to move the card over a little bit. Just because I moved it just so I could make sure it was straight. So we're just going to move the card, which is not going to cause a big problem at all. In a field of roses, you are a wildflower. That's what it says, as you can read. So I'm going to decide to trim this down further. And I'm just playing with it here and I'm like, yep. So it's in the end, it's actually going to be down to 9.7 by 14.1. Just so we can have a little room. And I'm going to trim off this bit first because I thought, let's just wait till the ink dries because I don't have a great track record. And just cut one. That'd be nice and handy for today. So this is the 14.4 by 10 centimetre piece. And now we're going to come in and trim off the rest of that. And put it all together. So it's just something in the background to raise it up and bring it out a little bit more. They're all very soft. Well, apart from that green, they're pretty soft little colours in the paper pad. I'm not into a lot of dark papers, and there is a couple which they're really, really gorgeous. You'll see in the next card. Oh no, there's 4 cards. You won't see in the next card because there is no card. I was going to use it in the next card. So what's happening in your world? My world. They're going back to school. By the time you will see this, they are actually will be back by then. My boys go back on the 9th of June. One of them, the oldest one, goes back on the 26th of May. But they're going back. So we've made it. We got out. Hopefully we don't have a second wave. I'm using some Nuvo crystal drops here. And we're just going to place them around just to give a little bit of extra bling and an extra little bit of something. We're also going to use some stickles to emphasize the roses. And I'm just going to put those where I would normally put the darker shading on the rose. Just because I can and I liked it and I wanted to. Pretty much that's all really. So that's going to be pretty much our card. Now if you go over, down below is the link to my blog, which will have the other card. It'll have Leslie's phone number and all her details. And I hope you enjoy and like and subscribe to my channel. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye.